Hi, everybody. Welcome to Music Effect Design. It is August 14th, 2020. We're your hosts. I'm Jordan Pittner. I'm a drill writer, a music educator out of Phoenix, Arizona.
My name's Mike Kruger. I'm a music educator, composer, arranger out of Cleveland, Ohio.
And my name is Holly Paxton. I am a music educator and color guard instructor based out of Phoenix, Arizona.
If you haven't noticed, my setting's a little bit different today. I've made a socially distanced trip out to see Mike. He's actually a couple rooms away. Got a little clap emoji here. Yeah, so I've taken a socially distanced trip out to Cleveland here to help him out with some things. It's been a fun week so far.
Oh yeah, it's been a quick 3 days so far.
Seriously, I mean, real fast. It's like today's like the halfway mark too, so it's wild.
Yeah, now it's weekend time.
Right, that's right. So we're gonna do some celebrating. Hey, we've got a great video today. I know a lot of people are getting ready to go back into their classrooms, to go back with their programs in a lot of unknown ways. Everybody's a little bit different, but I think we can all agree that one of the things that's really missing from our atmosphere right now is active rehearsal. So I've seen a lot of really great formatted videos, instructions, like sending recordings back and forth, and those are great formats. I've seen some people do it really, really well. But today we want to talk about how to do an actual in-person rehearsal. So we've been doing some test runs of our own for our Spark Virtual Clinic, and we've learned a lot. Some of this, for some of you, is going to be kind of maybe a no-brainer, but some of it might be really informative, and it'll probably be different from person to person. Before we jump into all of the detailed pieces, I'd like to hear from the two of you what the process has been like for the two of you. What were your expectations, and how has it been a little bit different? The act of actually putting these online rehearsals together.
For me, the biggest thing is seeing how much of the whole process is like a team process. Like, a lot of our things we were able to do were a lot easier when we had a second or third person in on it. Right. But it was just cool seeing what all the different softwares can do, and we experimented with pretty much everything. And we used Google, and we tried Zoom, and we tried WebEx, and 800 different things. So the experimenting part was really fun.
Yeah.
About 5 months ago, when this all was going down and schools were shutting down and things were switching, it was deemed basically impossible to be able to do live virtual rehearsals effectively. And the biggest thing I've learned so far is that I think that should be challenged now. I think that productive rehearsals can come out of virtual live rehearsals. And seeing that process come to life has been a lot of fun.
Yeah. I think we could probably turn this into, seriously, we could probably turn this into like a 3-hour video if we wanted.
For sure.
Like all the different things we've experimented with and all the things we've tried and what hasn't worked and what our big leaps were. But today, all we're going to do is give you 5 different pieces of information that will hopefully get you to a better place, and then talk to you about some other resources we have that you can utilize to help you succeed, help you move forward with virtual rehearsals. So I'll take the first part because it's kind of techy, and I tend to be our tech problem solver person. Number one, it's a good fundamental place to start. Number one, just reduce latency. When we talk about latency, we're talking about basically the response time from your computer to the internet back out to someone else's computer. That's basically what we're talking about. So we found that when we prioritize reducing latency, the amount of time that response takes, that your rehearsal's just better because there's less stalling. There's a few obvious and maybe a few non-obvious ways to do that. Some of the ones I have written down are a wired versus a wireless connection. So if you have the ability to plug like an Ethernet, a Cat5 cable in to your computer and run it directly to your router, for internet, do that, because the connection, the like physical connection, is going to be much faster than the wireless connection that sort of like pings signals back and forth really, really rapidly. So you're instantly gaining some time there. I'm actually working on a MacBook that doesn't have an Ethernet router, and I can still buy like an adapter, USB-C to Ethernet, to plug in and get a wired connection. Number two, not of our 5 ways, but just of the reducing latency thing. Close any unused apps. So I could show you. Actually, I'll do that. Let me screen share for a second. Aha. Do you want to see my stuff here? This is my Evernote with our notes today. So down here, I've got a ton of apps. I have Evernote open often, sticky notes, Zoom, this little baby picture of me that I found earlier today. That's pretty cool. I've usually got like a ton of apps open at any given time. Just go through and close every single app that you're not going to use for your rehearsal time. If you've got to spend some time saving your work, like closing down like your web browser that has 7 million different things in it, it's worth your time. It may not feel like it, but all those little things taking up extra bandwidth, extra processing power in your computer is going to be super helpful. And the last one, this one may not be as obvious, is get your other devices off of Wi-Fi. So Holly and I typically share an internet connection, and right before we start the virtual rehearsals, we're taking our phones off of the Wi-Fi. I'm shutting down other computers. I mean, just anything you can do to get all of your stuff taking less bandwidth, the more success you're going to have in those rehearsals.
Yeah, having stuff downloaded too helps. Like Jordan usually has his music up on an iPad, and that's something that can really easily be downloaded versus, what's it called? Cloud-based something, like having it just on the cloud and streaming to your iPad if it's something that can be downloaded. Or like the metronome tracks, if you've got like an audio track, that's like a couple easy ways to have a little bit less internet being used for other things.
Yeah, this part can't be understated. Just do whatever you can to reduce your latency, and your program's going to be better for it. And also let your students, the people you're teaching, take some time to set that up with them too. Maybe in a form, in a YouTube video, or just in the beginning of your rehearsal. So that's point number one: reduce latency. We'll have these in a note at the end of the show as well. I've got some show notes I'll drop. Number two, I'd love Holly's help with this a little bit as well. Number two, I want you to focus on setting up your microphone settings early on. Okay, this is not only for you, the director or the instructor, but also for your students. So we've been using one of the applications we've been using is Zoom for our things. And one of the things we noticed early on is if somebody's honking on a trumpet, Zoom has a lot of like settings for noise disruption. And let's be honest, trumpets are a major disruption. That Zoom actually has like programs in place to cut out that noise, because it's a long sustaining thing. It thinks it's like a really annoying bird or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So like,
I'm not sure. I don't think. No, I'm just like.
I mean, come on. Let's be real. Yeah. So just taking the time to go through those settings is really, really good.
Yeah,
I
in
guess Holly can
Zoom,
speak more to that.
the biggest one, we've been working on playing with settings, and usually the user has to do this on their end. But I think there's a way to make it available from the person setting up the meeting side. So Zoom has a setting for turning on or off original sound. Now, original sound means everything the microphone is picking up is getting transmitted through. Usually they have original sound off because they want to prioritize voice. They don't want to pick up the fan from your computer or, background noise. And that's a feature on almost every single video application situation. I know my school district uses WebEx, or the Cisco WebEx system, and they just created a music mode that does that same thing of taking the original microphone input. So if whatever video system you're using has an option for changing what goes through with the microphone, that's where to look for that.
Yep. So that's one part of this is setting up sound cancellation, or like disabling it. Basically, that's the most success that we found is just getting rid of that setting altogether. The next one, the other part of setting up your microphones, is making sure that the sensitivity is up. So the way we've been doing this, and we don't really have the time to explain the full thing today, but what we do is we have everyone's mics open all the time, and then we can kind of control whose mics are on or off for us to listen to. So go into their settings, and there should be like a little slider, no matter what program you use, for sensitivity, and just make sure that it's tuned to the instrument. So have them kind of maybe play a passage of their music and watch that setting and make sure that it's reduced. You don't want them going into like the red peaking sound, because that's going to come through really harsh on yours. You're going to want to push that down, especially for your forward-facing bells. I mean, Mike, you're a trombone player. How many times have you heard, can you play that a little bit softer?
Never.
Not once.
Never been told to play quieter. We always just hear the word louder. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna say that it hasn't been said, but we don't hear that. You know,
like you hear the Charlie Brown adult, like the trombone,
just play louder.
Loud. Yeah. So reduce your latency, set up your microphones early. It's going to feel a little bit tedious compared to just getting started with warm-ups, but man, it is worth your time if you can get that stuff set up right. So, Mike, I'd love for you to talk about the next one that we have. Point number 3 that we have in our maximizing rehearsals is avoiding mixing audio and visual cues. Can you speak to that a little bit?
For sure. One of the things is what we've learned with running a rehearsal with this kind of setup is that it really takes like 2 conductors in many ways. It takes kind of one person to help navigate technology and making sure that kind of the process of what's going on is clear, and then you kind of have like a music director. Now the thing is that we found that it's pretty hard or basically impossible to be able to get the visual cue along with something like an aural cue to line up together. So the biggest thing is if I go 1, 2, ready, go, they're going to hear something that doesn't line up with my hands. So in rehearsal, it's going to fall apart. So conducting versus a metronome is really important. That's really kind of the first thing. You have to go conducting versus the metronome, not really conducting and the metronome. That's really important. So you could just conducting, no sound. Because ideally that's going to line up visually with everyone. Or you could have, I can count along with it, 1, 2, 3, and have a metronome going with, whether that's through, a Dr. Beat or I sound old, an app or whatever we use. Like, you could have that plugged in so everyone hears it here, or that's coming straight off from the conductor. So you really want to kind of play around with both. We found that conducting more, especially in the warm-ups, kind of created a little bit more, it can create a little bit more of a rapport with people as opposed to a click. So there's ways to play around with both. Another aspect is you can, this is kind of the second thing, a rehearsal like tip, if you would, when it comes to avoiding mixing audio and visual cues. The second idea is we can just play back recordings of the music. So with an MP3, you can put in a quick track through various programs, and you can have that play through everyone's headphones, where they can hear that, and you can ask them to play along with that as well. So you can do that at different speeds, which they can play along with. You can have recordings without tempos in it, without the click, so they can just hear the recording in its own way. So those are kind of like 2 big ideas of which you can like really help with having successful rehearsals, but not being conflicting with what to do. Even me just doing this right here, right now, because I can hear Jordan, like I just hear a little bit of something because we're like close to each other. Like I can tell that that's going to be a little bit, even from here to you, it's going to be a little bit different if I'm conducting, and you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. So, hey Jordan, try something with me while we're here. I'm gonna conduct 4, and I want you to go wow real loud, like on beat 1.
I got you.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Ha!
Yeah. So like from here, it was like half a second later. It was like ha, right? And so like you guys, that's in real time with each other, right? So
Yeah.
So it's really important to kind of avoid that. If you're used to marching band, it's kind of like what we talk about with distance on the field. And it's kind of like that in the virtual setting. So you have to come up with creative ways to how do you listen or where do you watch. And, so it's been very fun learning those things.
Yeah, even in this video that you're watching right now as a viewer, you'll notice that while I might be relatively, like my camera might be relatively fluid, you'll notice Mike and Holly do some like visual stutters every now and then, like the screen kind of freezes. And that's because we're recording from my device, and there's a little bit of latency or some issues with their video getting to me. So what we found is that when we were going 1, 2, ready, go, there were some people that were looking for the cue, and so it was 1, 2, ready, go, and I like froze partway through, or Mike froze partway through. So we were getting a lot of that. So like we were like putting our hands in our pockets and things, just trying to avoid that. Because like as a conductor, that's a hard thing to do. Yeah, right. It's hard as a music conductor to like basically say only do half of the things that you're supposed to do. That's been tough.
It is, but it also shapes how you're going to do rehearsal, because it's really, really hard in the virtual setting to say we're going to do a full run.
Yeah. Right.
Without it kind of falling apart, because at some point, at louder moments or not, you could lose a metronome, or other times you might freeze up. So a lot of times, something we found that's useful is because of the kind of limitations. We can do big picture reps, but really break it down. Do 4 measures, like really break it down like a rehearsal, because the likelihood of stuff getting off between people within that time frame is, significantly less likely. Right.
So. Yeah, I mean that's point number 3. It's kind of a technology thing, but also sort of an experimentation music directing thing.
For sure.
So just avoid mixing audio and visual cues. We found that if we do conduct only, people do tend to follow that pretty well, even if they miss a beat or whatever. It's when the metronome is added that there have been some difficulties.
Right.
So point number 4. This was a great kind of breakthrough for us. And not really a surprising one when you think about it. But we found that smaller sections, when we used those, it was a real icebreaker, and it made everybody more comfortable in the online environment. So we were able to utilize Zoom as one of the things we did. We were able to utilize Zoom and go to the actual breakout rooms, which I think is a paid feature of like some version of Zoom or whatever, but you're able to split up into rooms. We were calling them like woodwind room, brass room, percussion room, even like practice rooms if we wanted to pull people out and work on some one-on-one things. But using those small sections to just kind of build rapport with a smaller group was really, really successful. So if you have the ability to utilize more staff, or if you're trying to find ways to use more people, starting in the smaller groups after you get everything set up is a great way to do that.
And there are a lot of elements to the small rooms. You can do it all the way down to one-on-one, right? For individual help, all the way to a full percussion section. So there's tons you can do. So it's a little bit easier to manage, also logistically, and I would say educationally, in smaller groups as well. So just something, if you're getting used to this technology and you're liking this, you could go, okay, maybe the best way is to start doing it with just a small quintet or something. So so I really recommend the smaller like aspect of this, like really focusing on like the smaller groups can really lead to larger results. Yeah.
And an alternative, if either the breakout rooms aren't going to work for you because you can't use Zoom at your school, it's really easy to just have like a constantly available link of like, this is always the woodwind breakout room, or this is always, and like it's just a different link that they click into, and it can be a little bit easier to manage in some ways. And sometimes, cautionary tale, the breakout rooms can get a little bit crazy if people get like kicked out of Zoom for whatever reason, like if they're using a phone. So that just might be another thing to consider. It's easier to get back in if there's just like a separate link, but it's not as easy to move people around from room to room. So a little bit of this or that, depending on what you need. But we wanted you to learn from our learning that Zoom, there's options for managing the breakout room concept. Yeah,
just as an added bonus, a bonus tip for you, for those of you that are watching. we found the more we were able to subdivide the roles, the much easier it was to put together. At one point, I was trying to run rehearsal and do the metronomes and do all of the recording and do all of everything. And I even as prepared as I was, I couldn't keep up with the pace of a rehearsal. So when we split the role and we had Mike doing more of the music side, me doing more of the production, putting all that together, and Holly doing more of the like rooms and things like that, like it was a much more manageable job. So subdivide as much as you can. Yeah. So that's a simple one, but start in the smallest sections you can, or go into the smallest sections you can early on. That'll give your students the ability to just experience kind of a smaller group atmosphere. That could be really good for you. And the last one, and my favorite, our final tip is make it feel like the band room. Just make it feel like a band room. So I'll open the floor to the two of you. When you hear that, make it feel like the band room, what comes to your mind?
I mean, Mike gets to feel this a little bit more than I do in his musical spaces versus my elementary musical spaces. But you walk into rehearsal and there's just noise from all the people warming up, and that feels like a band room to me. It's just, people noodling around, getting their instruments ready before practice, and that's what makes it really feel like a band room to me, at least at the beginning.
I agree with that. I think sometimes you guys, we've all heard about the first impressions, right? So I think if we're going to do a virtual learning experience and you're going to do an ensemble and you want it to be something that your students like band, and you go in there with no sound and it's really formal and stuffy and not a good time, then the first thing and the first impression your students are getting is that this is not like band. Right. This isn't what. So what we found was that when people started entering the Zoom room, we let them leave their mics on and let them warm up and play. So when we start rehearsal, let people hear each other. Maybe it helps other students get ideas for warm-ups, but it just makes the atmosphere kind of feel like a band room. Think of what you like in a band rehearsal. When you're with your own program or during band camp, having your staff demonstrate things, playing examples, you can do that whether it's live on Zoom, or you can have preset recordings that people can listen to, and allow that like don't just go on Zoom and just have a random game, like random stuff. Really have a detailed lesson plan and a game plan, and make sure there's flow to it. But do the little things with your staff involved with your students, in the breakout rooms. Those things all really matter a lot to make it feel like a band room. Because if you're in a full ensemble rehearsal in a marching field, and your section tech is there, and it's not going well, you might get pulled out and worked with. Well, you can do the same thing virtually. Mm-hmm. So I think that those things create an atmosphere that is really fun, that students will appreciate.
Yeah. I'm really glad both of you gave examples of what making it feel like the band room could be. The last thing that I'll add to this is just always have that question in your mind. What can you do at this moment to make it feel more like a rehearsal room? We went, from the breakout rooms and being able to have, staff pull students out and work with them one-on-one, which is great in a virtual space anyway, because they get more of that individualized feedback, all the way to the things that we called the rooms, right? We called them woodwind room and brass room, because that's a little bit more we didn't just call it room 1, room 2, room 3. We tried to make everything as welcoming as we could and make the environment just feel like a band room, because I think I speak for all of us when I say that's what we're all really missing right now, is that feeling of being in the hall, being able to make beautiful music. We're not going to be able to get all of those things right now, but every step is one step closer to making your students feel a little bit more like they're at home.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's it. That's our 5 tips. Mike, you got more?
Let me just say one last thing on that.
Of course.
If we're not doing so if you're a music educator right now, and you say you really care about your band and music, most competitions have been wiped off, right? They're gone. Mm-hmm. This is an opportunity where we get to teach our students real music. We don't have to worry, and when I say real music without having to be judged. music for the sake of being music for just making music and enjoying it. And that's really, really important. So if you're going to say that's important, but you're going to do something virtual and not take the time to make it feel important, then there's a disconnect to your students. They'll know that very quickly. I would argue that part 5, making it feel like home, is maybe the most important thing you can do. Because even if you screw up the tech stuff, if you try to give it an honest effort to make it feel important to them, they're going to know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well said. Well said. I'll give the two of you one more chance for some final thoughts at the end here, because we're coming up on the end. Like I said, we could talk for hours about the different experiments. We've had 4 or 5 different versions of experimenting with this. It started with a really raw idea that didn't work very well, and has continually evolved into something that we feel is getting really close. I would say we're like, the first rehearsal was like 20% of the way there. I really feel like we're 80 to 85% away from not away, towards maxing this thing out. Yeah, we got like another 20 to 15% to go. So if you are thinking about finding some way to do virtual rehearsals, we have 2 different things you can do with us. First, if you're not having a marching season and you want your students to experience that, check out our Spark virtual marching band program. We're taking students all across the country, and we're bringing them together for the idea of learning a show, of having live rehearsals, but also making it not time sensitive. What's the right word? Like time compliant. We don't want them rehearsing 6 to 9 hours with us every week. We're going to do a 1 hour thing or a couple hours on Sunday. And then we'll have some supplemental things throughout the week if they want more. So it's going to be really, really cool. So check out the Spark Virtual Marching Band. If you're interested in having your own virtual rehearsals, also reach out to us. We've got a system in place that we have put together that works for us. It might be different for you. You might have different needs, different things, but we want to see if we can help you solve that, and figure out how to work with you and your program to put something together for you. So email us at spark@musiceffectdesign.com. I'll put that in the show notes as well. Spark@musiceffectdesign.com. That's our email, and we'll get back to you within the day. So that's the pitch. We've talked about online rehearsals, what's, how we can maximize it. Final thoughts from the 2 of you.
I'll go first. This is sort of a reiteration of our 5th tip of make it feel like the band room. But I know that when I think back to band and my best band memories, it was the people I was with, the people I perform with, and my band directors. So don't forget to let them just see you and just get a chance to know you. I remember in one of our rehearsals, Mike was leading a part, and it was just so much fun because Mike was being Mike and doing his thing at rehearsal. And that's the same with your band. Don't let this stress you out too much. I know it's crazy, but the kids love you, and that's one of the biggest things that they're going to remember this year is you. So stay chill and know that it's going to be okay. Be you.
Well said.
I think the biggest thing I've learned from this experience is it's very important for educators right now. Most have already started. So, but it's really important to really know what your goals are. Are your goals this semester? Are you looking to have a successful large ensemble, or are you really just trying to educate each individual? And that's going to dictate a lot of what you decide to do with your technology. Are you looking to have students perform or work on a virtual performance, or are you doing this where they're only going to learn things for the semester and have no public display of this? Because that also matters on how much you need to worry about sometimes the refinement, not on their playing, but on how it's presented. Those things are important. Are you going to be looking at doing this, or is this technology not even capable, or is it something you're capable of doing? And if that's the case, are you doing more like online journals and listening and whatnot? So I think the biggest thing is know what you're trying to do with your program and find a plan that you think is going to make them better. Because this year, in many ways, we just have to try to get our students better by just teaching them. So figure out what that is. And if you need help, let us know, because I think we can probably help you out.
Well said. I wasn't going to say anything, and now I am. I'm a liar. I mean, the two of you make such great points. At the end of the day, students love music. Students love making music, and students love each other, and students love like you, the director. So at the end of the day, like, yeah, don't let these little pieces make it feel like it's too overwhelming. Like, you can do this. It's just a few extra steps to get you closer to your students. And like Mike said, if you need us, let us know. So again, from all of us at Music Effect Design, thank you for being here with us today.
That's a heart emoji for that.
That's right.
By the way.
I wish there was a heart emoji in Zoom.
I know. That's boom, pew. I'm putting it up right now for you. I'm putting it up.
The comic book wolf.
I love what you just said. I love what you just said.
Yeah. So, all right. Yeah, thanks everybody once again. We're going to be back next Friday, so don't miss us then. We'll see you there.
See ya.
Bye.